So, welcome to the Spiritual Hour with myself, Global Psychic Medium. Today, we're on episode 10. I'm going to talk all about spirit guides today. Now, all of you out there, we all have spirit guides. Now, what's their job? What's their purpose? So, spirit guides, they're here to watch over us, to help us, to guide us, to help us to navigate certain challenges on our path. Now, we'll receive this information through different ways. Now, whether this is through visions of clairvoyance, or through hearing, through clairaudience, or feeling through clairsentience, this is how we start to receive the information and how we would interpret the information. Now, some of you may have seen, heard, or connected with your spirit guide, and some of you may not have done. Now, when I talk about spirit guides, I like to use the analogy with spirit guides. They're very much like coaches. So for me, I love football. So I use the analogy. They're like a football coach. They come in, they teach us everything they can possibly teach us. And after that, they may move on. And another guide might come in, and another guide might come in and start trying to help us and guide us and help us move forward in a different way. And that's why sometimes one guide comes in and another guide goes out. Now, for myself, I've seen several of my guides. So it's important to understand that we don't have just one spirit guide. We have several spirit guides. Now, I know at least 4 of mine, but I know somebody else that's told me they have up to 7. So what I would say to you is, I know that there's not one. I know there's several that we have. Now, for some of you that are curious to how you may connect with your spirit guide, one of the best ways to connect with them would be through a guided meditation. And a guided meditation can walk you through on the whole process of getting into that deep mind, getting into that deep state, raising your vibration, raising your consciousness, and then connecting with your spirit guide. It's something that I'm going to put more on my channel, so whether that's YouTube or Spotify, I will be putting a meditation for that in the near future. Now, the first guide that I encountered was actually by accident. So I wasn't necessarily, I didn't think I was on a spiritual path, let's put it like that. I wasn't trying to meditate. I wasn't trying to connect. It was completely accidental. But I would describe this too as divine intervention, for myself anyway. This one particular day, I was feeling a little bit kind of floaty, a little bit kind of all over the place in the mind. And I was sitting in the garden, and I talked about this on a previous podcast. I seen an angel in the garden right next to one of my bamboo plants. And my bamboo plants in the garden are a good 9 foot, possibly even 10 foot. They're very, very tall. And I seen one of them standing next to one of my bamboo plants. And I said to my other half, can you see that angel? And she couldn't see what I was seeing, obviously. I then went in. I went upstairs. And I thought, I just need to sit down on the bed. But I ended up falling and laying on the bed. And at that point, I completely projected out of my body like an astral projection. It's the only way I can describe it. Now, without going through that whole story again, when I went through the astral realm, I met a gentleman and he had long hair, like grey-white hair down to about here. And he was wearing like a white robe, is the only way I can describe it. And he was holding a stick, and he told me his name was Theseus in this really deep voice. And he told me that I was a healer in many, many ways, which at the time I didn't completely understand. Obviously, there was a lot of this information at the time I'm being told, but I don't necessarily know what to do with it. All I know is that this man's telling me all these things, and there's a good chance that he knows how, but I'm going to have to connect with this person again at some point. So again, I'm in this moment, I'm connecting with my guide the first time. I follow up what he says and then decide to go and find like a spiritual group, a spiritual church, and start understanding how to connect with spirit. Now, this particular guide that came in was what's called a gatekeeper. So he's the guide that's with you from the moment that you're born till the moment that you pass. That guide will never change. That guide will stay for the whole duration of your life. Other guides, however, may come in and go, but your gatekeeper will stay. Okay, they're also ones that let spirits in, so they decide which spirits will come in around you. If there's things that are not so good, they'll stop those spirits coming in as well. Now, other people ask me this question many times: can my loved ones in spirit become my guides? And the answer to that question is yes, of course they can. They can join your spirit team. I don't think it's something that we choose down here. I think it's something that happens up there. But yes, they can become part of our team. But what I do know is that the people that become our spirit guides are people that have gained so much wisdom and knowledge, and sometimes over many lifetimes. Theseus, the guy that I was talking about, my gatekeeper guide, he's someone that I would say that's been around for maybe 2,000 years. He's from that generation. It's a long time ago. He's a Greek guide that came in. I also have another guide, which is called Grey Wolf, ironically, who is a Native American chief, or he was, but he was also a medicine man. Now, because of the connection with the medicine man, on my journey, he helped me to understand how to become a medical intuitive. So he helped me to understand how to pick up certain things on the body when I'm doing psychic readings or mediumship readings. He's the guy that will help me to understand what it is that needs to be passed on to the person I'm reading for. He helped me to search for the knowledge and helps also to give me the information in readings. There's also another guide that I have. He's a Tibetan monk, this gentleman. Now, I don't know this gentleman's name. I've not managed to catch this gentleman's name, but he's a Tibetan monk. Now, he's someone that wants to bring a lot of the peace to the mind, and he wants me to work with breath work, calming, etc., etc. So there's a lot of lessons that they can teach you. Now, some of them we listen to, and some of them at times we don't listen to, and we ignore what our intuition is telling us or what our guide's telling us, and sometimes we make mistakes. But there must have been times where you've been sitting at home or sitting in your car doing something that you were just kind of a relaxed mind. And all of a sudden you felt like you needed to do something. Maybe you had to turn the cooker off, maybe you had to turn the bath off or the shower off. Something just came into your head that I've got to do this right now. Again, this information could have been coming from your spirit guides. They could have been trying to help you and guide you for something that they was trying to warn you of something happening. I remember there was one that it was the beginning of my spiritual journey, so within the first year, and I remember going into the bedroom and had a glass of water. And as you walked into the bedroom, the TV was there and there was a PlayStation next to it at the time. And they showed me a flash in my head, a picture of a glass of water falling over next to the PlayStation. So they was pretty much warning me not to do it, not to put my glass just there. I went in, I just paused for a second. I went to do it, my glass went over and all went round that area with all the wires, obviously not so good. But they was trying to warn me not to do it because of the wires and things like that. So sometimes I'll get an image, a flash in my mind before it even happens. So they'll get an image that will come in. Sometimes with guides as well, that we won't realize that they may be trying to give us guidance through other ways. So it could be a situation in your life, it could be a family member, a partner, it could be anyone. And there might have been something that would have been asking a question: how do I navigate this challenge? How do I navigate that challenge? What do I do? How do I do it? Sometimes the answer might just come into your head, but you don't always know where this information comes from. It just lands in your head. And sometimes, because we don't necessarily always see someone, we just think that we've just thought of it, it just come into our mind. Chances are that information came from one of your spirit guides. I remember when I was at school when I was younger, and again, I didn't know I was a psychic or medium back then. And I remember sitting in the classroom, and I had a teacher called Mrs. Kimball, I think her name was. And I remember she'd say to me, what's the answer to this question? And I'd be like, and I weren't listening at all to what she'd said. And all of a sudden, the answer just came into my head. And she'd say, how did you get that? I said, I don't know. It just came into my head. The answer came into my head. And she'd kind of look at me, and I'd end up sitting back down. She was like, okay, the answer's right. Sometimes the answer would just come to you. It would just, all of a sudden, it's like, I just thought of it. It just came into your mind. That's also as well how we receive information from our spirit guides. So it's important to understand on this particular journey, they can connect with us and communicate with us in more than one way. Now, going back to the story of my spiritual awakening and first connecting with my guide, I believe that my spiritual awakening or divine intervention, effectively, was something that my spirit guides knew that at that particular time, it was the exact right moment for it to happen. It had to be at that moment. I was at a low point in my life. I'd kind of lost direction. I didn't know which direction I was going. And I believe that when they came in because they realized that I needed a purpose. I needed to also fulfill my soul purpose. And so when they came in and started telling me I had these gifts or these healing powers or whatever it was they was trying to tell me, it was almost like that was the moment in my life when I would finally have listened. If they'd have asked me 10 years before, I would have had something like that 10 years before. I probably wouldn't have listened at all. I was at that point in my life where I knew things have got to change. Things have got to change now. And when you're at a difficult point in your life, you're kind of prepared to try anything. You kind of get to the point where things are not working. So you kind of say to yourself, I'll try anything because this ain't working right now. That's exactly what happened with myself. I believe because there was a lot of depression around me, there was a lot of trauma around me, a lot of PTSD and flashbacks and things like that. It was the perfect time for me to start the spiritual journey, but also the healing journey. But I couldn't really start the healing journey until I'd started the spiritual journey, the two combined. And so I believe at that particular moment, when that happened, that's when my life finally started to change because they knew that I needed this healing desperately. And the only way I could do that was by connecting to the source, connecting to spirit, connecting to my guides and getting this information. There was times where I shocked myself. So there was information that I was retrieving from my guides or from other spirits that I was passing on to other people that was even shocking myself. And you kind of get filled with this buzz, is the only way I can describe it when you start. And you kind of get this feeling of like, oh my God, like I just got this and this. And things started to change. And the more I committed to the journey, the more that spirit started to work with me more and more and more. Now, those that also know me too also know that I had a guide. I had my spirit guide done here in honor. So my spirit guide here, Grey Wolf, I had this done in honor of him, and again with the name. Now, for me, although everybody knows my name's Carl, I wanted to honour my guide, Grey Wolf. One, I thought it was a cool name, but secondly, I also know that without spirit, we don't have this information that comes through, whether that be spirit guides or spirit. Without them, we can't do what we do. And so it's really important for me to honour those too. And it's almost like separating the two in your everyday life, when you're not doing readings or meditations or classes or live readings or any of that kind of stuff, you try your hardest to be calm, which can sometimes be hard when you feel so much energy, but you try to be calm. The minute that you change and you almost step into your power. It's the only way I can describe it. You step into your power and it's almost like an alter ego. All of a sudden, you step into this feeling of blending with spirit and believing in the process, and like Grey Wolf appears. That's the only way I can describe it to you. Grey Wolf's very confident in what he does and the way that he says it, the information he retrieves. Carl can be different. And so it's almost like, how do I put it? The thought of doing a demonstration with 100 people there with just Carl would be frightening, absolutely frightening. However, when I step into the power of spirit, the power of my guides, the energy of those, and it's almost like I become Grey Wolf. All of those anxieties, fears, and doubts just go. It's like they just go. It's like I believe and trust in spirit that much that all of a sudden, all of those things I can put aside. I believe and trust in the process so much. Now, there's a lot of people out there that can resonate exactly with what I'm saying. When you trust in spirit and you trust in the process of the way that spirit work, the way they give us this information, and the way that we work and pass that on, knowing that spirit always have our backs and they do these things to help us on our journey. It's not just to get the wow moments for us or for our sitter, the person that we're reading for, but to bring healing. Now, healing comes in many forms. It's not just for your sitter. Now, your sitter will take loads from it, don't get me wrong. But also, when you're delivering thousands of messages, over time, you start to hold on, not to the message, but the almost like the guidance that you've given to so many people, and understanding that's the fix for them, what Spirit told them. There's a similar situation in my own life. That's the fix for me too. And then it starts to help you to navigate your own challenges without even realizing that there's so much guidance that you're passing on a daily basis to all these people. And you realize that most of this guidance that you can take for yourself too. And again, this is about understanding your spirit guides and the way they work. Now, here's the difficult bit. So, when a spirit guide decides that they've taught you enough, it's not that they've come to me and said, Carl, see you later. It's been lovely working with you. We're going. It's not like that. Not for myself, anyway. It's like one day you're working with them, and the next day, all of a sudden, when you're working in your spiritual work, everything feels different. The way that you see, the way that you hear, the way that you feel, it all feels completely all over the place. It's like someone's moved the goalposts and put them over there. It's like everything about the way that you work all of a sudden changes. And it can take a few weeks to settle down with these new energies that they're bringing in. And sometimes they want you to work in a slightly different way. You don't always understand the reason, but there will be a reason that you will learn later on. Whether it's because you focus too much on clairvoyance and they want you to work with clairaudience, or you work too much with clairaudience and they want you to work with clairsentience, or any other variety of that. Sometimes it's because that they want to work on your strengths, but they also want to work on your weaknesses too. And it's about trying to get you to work with both. Okay. They want you to become very good and very strong at what you do so you can deliver the messages exactly how Spirit gives them to you. But it takes years to understand interpretations over the years. So for me, I'm clairvoyant. That's my main gift. And yes, I do hear and feel, but clairvoyance is my strongest gift. And so for me, I've been doing private readings, and all of a sudden, I'm not seeing. All of a sudden, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. It's like, hold on a minute. Well, where's my clairvoyance gone? Come back, come back. And then make you work with your other clairs to also almost like enhance them, to get you to work with them on another way too. Now, again, the advantages of connecting with your spirit guides, because some of you may not necessarily be working psychic mediums, but you may want to connect with your spirit guide. You can go and connect with your spirit guide again through, like I say, through meditation. And you can ask your spirit guide, what is your soul purpose? Maybe how do you navigate certain energies? What's next for you? How do you navigate certain things? So you can connect with them whenever you like. Now, I've met many people that have said, Carl, I felt their energy, but I didn't see them. And some will say, I could see them, but I couldn't hear them. And some could say, I could hear, but I couldn't see. Depends on what your strongest clairs are to how you will feel, see, or hear them around you. It's about using all of those senses to see, to feel, to hear, to touch, to taste, to know. It's about bringing all those senses together and adding them all up. I'm seeing this, I'm hearing that, and I'm feeling this, and this means it's about you bringing all those senses together and trusting in that process. You may say to them, what is your name? You might just get the letter T. You might get a full name. Now, the names are not always standard names. They're not always like a David or a John. They're not always standard names, as you can imagine. Sometimes the names can be quite tricky. So sometimes you may just get the letter to start with. You may just see them, you may hear them, or you may feel them. So it's something just to work on, just connecting with them, feeling their energy, feeling their presence, and asking them how they can help you on this particular spiritual journey. Now, for some of you, it may be about understanding the power of your intentions too. You see, when you start working with the spirit world, it is all about setting intention too. To do a reading for someone, I need to set the intention of asking spirit to step forward and to connect with your nearest and dearest who wants to come through. Again, if I'm going to do a tarot reading, again, I'll set the intention of the tarot reading. Maybe it might be for love. Maybe it might be for career. Maybe it might be for something else. But again, I've got to set the intention. If it's a healing session, again, I've got to set the intention. So you've got to understand the power of intention. So when you start your journey, particularly when you want to connect with your spirit guides, first and foremost, you want to set the intention to meet with one of your spirit guides or your gatekeeper spirit guide. Okay, you want to set that intention. Now, for me personally, I would highly recommend doing some form of opening and closing, like prayer, for instance. So, for me, I use my own. But I know that when I started at the spiritual churches, they use the Lord's Prayer to open and the Lord's Prayer to close. Again, whatever matches your beliefs, you can use that. There's several ones online. But it's also about asking, not just about setting intention in your prayer, but also asking for protection from any negative energies, entities, or any ill intentions. So when you're connecting in this work, you also know that you're divinely protected. Again, intention. Now, for me, I've done this work for many years now, and over the years, there's been so much help that you give to other people through the work that you do, whether you're bringing the mum through, the dad through, it could be anybody. But ultimately, this work also comes with you and your spirit guides. They're your team. They're the team that help you on a day-to-day basis. They're the team that help you to see, to feel, to hear. They help you search for the knowledge. So sometimes you might just start searching for something on YouTube or TikTok or whatever. All of a sudden, you kind of feel thirsty for the knowledge. It's almost like I need to know what this is. And you start looking for that. So it's about you understanding everything happens for a reason. If your intuition saying to you that you need to start looking at something,
There's definitely a reason. There's 100% a reason. So it's about you understanding that your guides could be passing that information on to you, and just because you can't see them or hear them, you may feel their presence. Now, for some of you too, you might start with like a high pitched noise in your ear, like a ringing or a high pitched noise. That I always say you have to discount things like tinnitus or high cortisol, again, reasons for kind of ringing in the ear. But if there's no medical conditions, then you have to ask yourself, is that sound that you're hearing the sound of energy? Okay, the sound of when an energy presents itself to us. Is that a spirit guide that you're feeling? Is that a spirit guide that's been with you all this time now? Some of you might call them like guardians, etc., etc. But again, that could be one of your guides that's trying to get your attention, that's trying to guide you, almost telling you, you need to lock the front door, you need to do this, you need to do that. Just little things in your life that, for some reason, protect you or help or guide you in whatever way it is that you need to understand. You know, with the spirit guides too, I know that one of the first things that I noticed, and I'm not all like this by the way, but one thing I noticed that when I first seen Theseus, who says call him Thomas, it was just pure white robe. And there was other guides that I met on the journey too that also wore white. And I had other people that I met too. And we talked about spirit guides, and they said that obviously their guides was also wearing white as well. But there was one guide that I met, which I remember the gasp that I felt when I connected with them. There was half human, half bear. It's the only way I can describe it. Half human, half bear. It was like half human, half animal. That's the only way I can describe it. I didn't know what it meant at the time. It just felt very, very confusing. Like, did I just imagine that? After lots and lots of research and connecting with other people, again, this was at the beginning of my journey. I later found out again that these was healer guides. So these was quite unique. Not everybody has these, but there is people out there that do have these guides. Half human, half animal. Again, it can be lion, tiger, bear, it can be whatever, but half and half. And I remember the first time that I met them, I was literally like, like it was almost like I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing. It felt magical. It felt like a moment of pure awe, but almost like that moment of like shock. Like I didn't expect to see them in the way that I see it. It's the only way I can describe it to you. But again, very, very powerful guides. And these guides, again, that they've lived many, many lifetimes. And because of all the knowledge and wisdom that they've gained through several lifetimes, they decided at this point on their journey, they're now going to become guides. So for those of you that wonder, how do you become a guide? There's your answer. It's like they've had so many lifetimes, made so many mistakes, but also did so many good things. And because they've learned so many valuable lessons, it's now time for them to help somebody else and learn those valuable lessons too. And so that's why it's important to understand it's not just anybody that comes your guide. These people, they can be from 100 years ago, it can be from 500 years ago, it can be from 1,000 years ago. There is no set time that they're necessarily from any time period. They could be from a long time ago. There was one gentleman I met, and he was a trance medium, and he used to do trance mediumship live demonstrations. And when his guide would come through, his guide was from over 5,000 years ago, and he'd come through with this voice like, it was just like, whoa. You knew that this man couldn't put this on for 2 hours. It was just impossible. The voice that came, it was so powerful, but I was in awe. It was the first time I'd ever seen trance. I was literally in awe, like, oh my God. And the questions that people would ask was just like on a whole new level. So it's important to understand there's different types. And you may see other mediums as well on, say, YouTube or TikTok that also talk a little bit about their spirit guides, and they may be trance mediums, or they may not be trance mediums. They may be healers. They may just be, again, psychic medium like myself. But they also share their journey about how they connect with their guide, how their guide might tell them off. Because again, sometimes you do get tellings off. So sometimes they may say to you, for instance, to me, you've got to stop smoking. You've got to stop smoking. You need to get more fresh air. You need to go out in nature. You need to connect. You need to ground. So sometimes, yes, we can get almost feel like we're being told off. And it's not quite the same as like your school teacher or even your kind of husband or your wife. It's not quite the same like that because you know that it's for your own good. It's your choice whether you listen or not. But the chances are that the reason that they're giving you this telling off or guidance, whichever way you want to put it, is to help you in some way. It's whether you decide to make those valuable changes or not. And if you make those changes, there's a good chance that your life is going to change in some way for the better. You never know what it's going to be, but it's going to change for the better in some way. So it's really important to follow the kind of feelings that your guides are trying to tell you. You might feel like, I just need to cleanse the house today. And you might have your sage out or your Palo Santo, and all of a sudden you might feel the need to cleanse. That's one. You might feel the need to put healing frequencies on through your house. So you might go on and put the solfeggio frequencies on and blast it for every room in your house. You may feel that you need to do that to raise the vibration, clear any other frequencies out. Where do you think this is coming from? If this is not coming from someone that you can see necessarily, this is most likely coming from one of your spirit guides that you feel that you've just got to do this. For whatever reason, wherever that's coming from, that's most likely coming from your spirit guide. The fact that you feel like you need to do that. You feel like you need to open the windows and cleanse. Now, I understand sometimes, we need to air our rooms to, kind of circulate, etc., etc. But in order for the energy to clear, particularly when we've got stagnant energy in our home, we need to open those windows. We need to let the energy flow through and not stand still, to flow through. So sometimes as well, our guides might be telling us this for a reason. They may be saying to you, that back room that you've used as a junk room for the last 6 months, it's time to clear that now. And the reason you might need to clear that is because, again, that stagnant energy that's sitting there. And for whatever reason, the energy can't flow through. So it's important to understand that even the smallest little things that you don't realize are helping you, those small little things are helping you, whether that is opening your windows, walking in nature, clearing your stagnant energy. These are things that your spirit guides trying to get the information to you. Whether the fact that you feel like you need to read a book. I remember going on at the beginning of my journey, and this is not me at all, but this is something that I did. I am not religious at all. However, when I started my spiritual journey, I felt it was really important to look into parts of religion. Not because I wanted to turn religious, but because I wanted to understand where the stories had come from and what's the right word? What was the real thing behind the story? So one example was when I think it was with Jesus. He didn't eat for, I think it was 40 days. He didn't drink, and he was on this journey. And no matter how much he tried, he kept going and going and going, and he didn't let his He didn't let his fear get in the way. He trusted in the process and thought that he'd get through it no matter what. And it was his faith that got him through, most importantly. And the lesson that I took from that was, yes, there's a lovely story out there that may or may not be true. I'm not trying to get into that. What I took from that, though, it was about keeping faith no matter what the circumstances were, no matter how harsh your conditions may be, your faith can get you through. And sometimes our conditions can feel awful. So I had to understand sometimes there was a moral to the story. That's what I was trying to get. There was a moral to the story. And trying to understand that sometimes it was important to understand parts of it, parts of what they was trying to say, because they was part of my journey too, about always keeping faith. And no matter how difficult the situation feels, no matter how harsh the conditions feel, with your faith that things will change and things will get better and you'll get through it, there's a good chance that you will. And I needed to understand parts of that. So I think my missus thought I was crackers at the time, where I went on to Amazon and I'm looking through all these different kind of religious stories, and she must have thought I'd lost the plot. But I felt like it was part of my journey. I felt like it was something that I needed to do and needed to understand where I was going with this journey. There was the religious side, and then there was the spiritual side, and then there was a connection between the two. I think it was important for me also to take from this that no matter what your faith or religion, no matter who you look up to up there, that faith was really important to us all. Without faith, without hope, there's not much going on, is there? And so whoever it is that you pray to, whoever it is that you look up to, makes no difference. The important part is that you have some faith, you have some hope. So when you are praying to someone, that you have that faith and hope that something will change, that somebody's listening, and things will start to change. And so I started to realize that the point of people having this faith, whoever it may have been, was what got them through their dark days, what maybe also get you through your dark days. And so I understood that the lessons that my guide was trying to get me to understand was those. No matter how hard things have been, I will generally overcome them. I just have to think positive. I just have to keep faith that better days are coming. I like to think that every time the sun comes up, it's a brand new day, a brand new start. And when you look out that window, it's a reset, a complete reset. You've got a chance to do something different each day. And you can either choose to do it the same, or you can choose to do it differently. That's your choice. But sometimes we are being guided to do something differently for whatever reason. So it's something that you need to look at within yourselves and ask, what do you feel like you're being guided to do? What's your intuition telling you to do? What do you feel like it's going to make a big difference in your life right now? Trust in your intuition when you're getting this information that comes through, or when you do a meditation, trust in that. What you think or feel or hear that you get from connecting with your guides. Now, the problem that you get sometimes is sometimes people doubt what they get, what they see or feel or hear. And sometimes I understand that, particularly when you first start, you kind of feel like, did I get that? Was I imagining that? Did they really say that? And then 6 months later, another medium would give me the exact same message of something that I channeled 6 months before. So rather than me listen when I first got it 6 months before, I waited for another medium to give me the same message I already had. And the lesson for me in that was, always trust. Trust your own intuition. Trust what I get, what comes to me. Don't doubt. There is people out there that feel like you can't read for yourself, or the mediums say that they can't. I disagree. I disagree because for myself, I can read for myself. I can connect to my guides. I can connect to my parents in spirit or my grandparents. I can connect to them. And because I trust that connection with the information I get from them, then I can still get guidance. I don't have to doubt what comes through. I just have to listen. I just have to put it in place and listen to what they're telling me and telling me how to take the next steps forward. For instance, I'll share this with you. when my dad passed in November, I was going through a real tough period at that particular point. I was getting tons of flashbacks from things around childhood, things that was really difficult, things that I spoke about in episode 2. I was getting a lot of them. And I remember it was like this, of thinking, what am I meant to do with this? Like, I don't want to be going through all this again. I thought I'd done this. But a lot of feelings came to the surface when my dad had passed. And I kept saying to Spirit, what am I meant to do with this? Why are you doing this to me? What am I meant to do with this? And I wanted to write a book. And I'd inquired about writing a book, but I found out that the prices was a little bit too expensive with a ghostwriter, because I do struggle with writing. So it was a little bit expensive, a little bit out of my price range. I said, what am I meant to do with this, Spirit? Why do you keep doing this to me? They said, Carl, we want you to do a podcast. I remember just sitting outside there. I was just sitting in the garden. I was just sitting there. I said to the missus, like, they've told me, after all this stuff that they're bringing back to me for the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, like my head was spinning with all these flashbacks. I said, they're telling me I've got to do a podcast. I said, they're telling me all this stuff that they're giving to me, I've got to talk about. I've got to share this with others. She's like, what? I said, I've got to share it with others. I've got to talk about this with others. This is what my guides are telling me. My guides are saying to me, Carl, we want you to share all the knowledge that you've gained along the journey, whatever that might be, whether that's about your trauma, whether it's about your connection to spirit, your spirit guides, whatever it might be, we want you to share it. There's people out there that need to hear. Now, as you know, online, there's lots and lots of videos. There is books, but I always say, the same with books too and videos, it's someone's interpretation of what it was that they went through, they seen, they feel, they had. And I know that there's so many people out there that have gone through trauma, that's going through an awakening, that sometimes don't know how to navigate it. And because I'm someone that tries to talk openly about it and not shy away in the corner, I hope that it encourages other people as well to open up about their things too. It doesn't have to be to me. It could be to a friend. It could be to a counsellor. It could be anyone they feel safe with. That's the important part. Whoever they feel safe to open up with. Now, I've gone past that part of worrying about judgment. I think when you first go through difficult things and you're not sure what people are going to say, and, some people can be mean, there's kind of that feeling of, worry about judgment from others. However, I've got past that part. I'm past that part where I'm able now to talk about things without being worried about those kind of things. Because there's lots and lots of people that have gone through difficult circumstances and they don't always know how to navigate it, which is exactly why Spirit's saying to me, Carl, you need to talk about these things. These things you need to talk about in as much detail and talk from your heart. Now, I don't ever write things down. I don't have a script. I don't have it like that. They always tell me to talk from the heart, which is exactly what I do, which is probably why I jump from thing to thing. But they told me this is the way that they wanted me to do it. It was important that I was genuine, authentic, and honest. And that's what I really wanted to be with you guys. So you guys can feel that it's relatable. It may be something that you've gone through, something that you're going through, whether it be the awakening process, whether it be about wanting to connect with spirit, wanting to connect with your guides, whatever it might be, they wanted me to try to share this with you guys. So it was so important that when we started this journey, obviously 10 weeks ago now, when we started this journey, it was really about trying to reach as many people as you can. So if you are watching this podcast, whichever platform that you're watching it on, please share it with someone. Please share it with somebody that it would benefit in some way. The idea is that we can reach as many people as possible that are also unsure. Because when you go through spiritual awakening, you don't necessarily know who to talk to. You kind of feel like you're being judged by this person, that person. I've even had friends that I've met in the shop where I've seen them, I've not seen them for, say, 7 years, 8 years. And they're like, how are you doing, Carl? What are you up to? And I'm like, I'm a psychic medium. And they look at me like, all right then. Yep, see you, mate. It's like they don't even want to talk to you. For whatever reason, it's almost like, this guy's crazy. I don't believe in that. And again, that's their choice. That's absolutely fine. But some people don't know how to look beyond what they see. They don't know how to look beyond what, if they can't see it, they don't believe it. That's the thing. But just because you can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there. And so there is people out there that when you start your journey in terms of your spiritual stuff, you don't know who to talk to. You're worried that your family might judge you, or your friends might judge you, or your colleagues might judge you. And you're kind of not sure who to talk about these things with. And so it gets difficult. So then you kind of might secretly join some groups like through Facebook or something else like that, hoping just to pick up a little bit of knowledge, or watching videos on YouTube, and again, just trying or hoping to pick up a little bit of knowledge, trying to understand what's going on in your head. But it's really important that you do find like-minded souls, which is what, again, another reason I wanted to try and create a community on here as well as my other platforms, so people could feel like they was able to resonate with the videos, leave comments, let me know what they thought, if it helped them in some way, if there was something else they wanted me to do a video or a podcast on, because it's something that they're seeking the answers to, but there may be fear of judgment out there. The other problem is too is that sometimes there's misleading information from certain mediums on certain platforms. That's probably the best way I can say it. I've seen and watched videos from certain other mediums where they've given information that's just not true. It may not be true from their perspective, but it doesn't mean that other mediums can't do it. I've heard mediums say that he said that when children go over to the side, they can't, that children don't go to the side. That was one thing that this person said. And, you know, I've worked with spirit for many, many times, and I know that they do cross over, they do go across the other side. And so there's, what I'm trying to say is there's misleading information. I've had other mediums say that it takes 6 months for them to come through in spirit. Again, misleading, it's just not true. From their perspective, they may not have encountered it on their own journey. But just because they've not encountered it, again, it doesn't mean with other mediums that they've not been able to do that themselves. And so what I'm saying is there is misleading videos out there that can leave people confused. And then they're not sure what's true, what's not true. And I think that's why it's important to follow people with the right ethics, with the right morals, someone that's genuine, authentic, trustworthy, someone that's maybe got a recommendation, someone that maybe have a good reputation. It's really important to make sure that when you do get your readings or your information, to get it from someone that you feel is going to give you the information truthfully and not misleading information, which can sometimes have a detrimental effect on an individual. And I think that's again another reason why my spirit guides felt it was so important for me to share, particularly on this platform that I'm on now. Obviously, I'm on YouTube and Spotify, the two that I'm working on, particularly with this podcast. And it was so important for me to share my journey. Now, it was something I wanted to do about 3 years ago, and then that was it. I just didn't know how to, and that was that. And I'd been guest on other podcasts, but I'd never actually done my own. But it came from nowhere. It came through in a period of grief. So obviously, as I said, my dad had just passed. So it came in a period where there was grief, and I was dealing with grief. But through the grief was all these difficult images and visions and flashbacks of the past, and I was like, I just didn't know what I was meant to do with it. And that's why, again, when Spirit said that it's time, Carl, it's time for you to connect with your audience, connect with your community, and start helping them in different ways. Now, again, through the work that I do, I do a lot of things like classes and readings and lives and things like that. But this is totally different. This is totally different where it's me for almost an hour talking from the soul, talking from the heart, sharing the knowledge or the experiences from my guides, from my spiritual journey, to help people like you out there, to help people that are looking to walk the spiritual path or to understand the spiritual path, to help them in the best way possible, not to scare them, but to help them guide each step of the way. And the best advice that I could also give to you, it's a spiritual journey. It's not a race. It's important to understand that each step on your journey is not to be rushed. And I know that sometimes we want to. I just want to do this. I just want to do that. It's not to be rushed. It's for you to understand the purpose of each step of your journey, to take in everything about that particular step that you're taking, whether it's when you first started, when you're doing meditations or connecting to spirit or your spirit guides, whether you're just starting to trust those intuition feelings that's coming in. Each step is an important step, and take your time with them because you learn so much, and sometimes you'll learn it at the time, and sometimes you'll learn it when you look back. But it's so important. When I first started doing mediumship development classes, I remember I do them online, and I remember sitting there saying to Spirit, saying to my guides, how do I bring a class onto Zoom, which is so different to doing it in person? It's just different setup. Obviously, it's online. It's just different. If we're in person, we'd all sit in a circle, for example, and the energy would run round the circle, which is, again, it's important when you're doing things in class. And when you're doing it on Zoom, it's different because you're not necessarily in the circle for the energy to go round. Things that you learn in class, like often sometimes the person you're sitting next to or the person you're sitting opposite to, sometimes that's where the information may come through when you're in those classes, development classes, and you're wondering, who's this reading for? It's probably the person opposite you or the person next to you. In classes online, it's different. So I remember sitting to and saying to my guides, how do I put all these teachings that you've given me into an online class for it to work in the best way possible? And they gave me all the tips and techniques. But you know what I've learned from that? What I've learned from that is to simplify things, to not overcomplicate things. Sometimes we think that working with spirit's more complicated than it actually is. Sometimes people confuse us with big words that make us think, what does that even mean? It's really important to simplify everything. Those of you that aren't interested in connecting with your spirit guides, let me know in the comments, okay? If there's enough comments, I'll get a video on Spotify and YouTube, a guided meditation to connect with your spirit guides. Please remember to set your intention before you start that guided meditation to connect with your guides. Set the intention. Do yourself a little opening and closing prayer. So there's your homework to seek one out, write it up, print it out, whatever. An opening and closing prayer before you connect. Okay, really, really important. I also recommend too that when you do my guided meditation, that you use earphones or headphones. And I also recommend, I personally prefer to lay down flat, personally. Some people are okay sitting. I personally don't like it. I prefer to lay. I feel like the energy flows through me so much better. So I lay down, get the earphones on, and just allow me to guide you through the process. And those of you that are interested in that, I'm sure that you're going to have a great experience. But remember, you either feel, hear, or see. Now, if you don't see, don't worry, you might hear. If you don't hear, don't worry, you might feel. But remember this before I do go today. When you do hear, it's not always how you hear me. It can be like an inner voice inside your head. So not externally, but internally. Okay. So it's like a voice that internally in kind of your head, kind of talking to yourself. You might get these feelings in your chest or in your stomach, like a good feeling, an exciting feeling. It could be anything, again. And the visions don't come from the eyes, they come from the mind, the third eye. And the best way I can describe that to you, for you to fully understand, if I said to you right now, can you imagine yourself on the sand, barefooted, standing on the beach with the water just in front and the water gently coming towards you, just washing on your feet, with the sun just beating down nice and warm on your skin? How you see that vision in your head is exactly how clairvoyance works, okay? It's in here, not in here. So I hope that that's helped you today understand the work of your spirit guides. I'm Grey Wolf Psychic Medium. You've been listening to the Spiritual Hour, and I'll see you all again next time. Take care, guys.